morning, students. Saira. Hope you all are doing well. So let us start with our today's class. In today's class, we are going to start with a very interesting topic of English grammar. And that interesting topic is related to the formation of your sentences and the meanings of your word. As you all know, that whenever you find any word very difficult, you use a dictionary to look at the meaning of that word. Is it so? Yes, it happened with me also. That I go for dictionary for help to look the meaning for the word in a textbook. And that meaning is known as literal meaning. That is, which is related to text. It doesn't have any other meaning. It is not created by the author. It is literal. That it is going to be in the dictionary because it is there in the formation of the words. But at times, the writer or the poet use such phrases or words that make or draw a picture in front of our eyes. And that meaning of a word is known as figurative meaning of a word. So we can say that the word has two meaning, literal meaning and figurative meaning. Literal meaning is that meaning which is there in the textbook and it means what it is said. What dictionaries say the meaning of the word, it is the same. But figurative meaning is the one which is used in such a way that it draws a picture in front of our eyes. Why such figurative meaning is used? To convey an idea easily and very vividly in an interesting way. For example, if I say or if I give a description of mountains filled with snow and you are playing there on snow, you can make a picture right now when you are listening this that yes, there is a valley where mountains are there filled with snow. Even the valley is also filled with snow. Me and my brother are playing there with snow and my family is also there. So you can make an imagination, a picture in your mind that this is going to be the picture. But if I say the valley is filled with snow, will you able to make a picture of that? No. Figurative meaning are used to convey that picture to you so that it become interesting to you to read the text. If I say, for example, let us take an example. Bolt ran very fast. It is very easy to you to understand. Bolt ran very fast. Okay, fine. He ran very fast. But if I say, you didn't have any picture in your mind when I say this word, Bolt ran very fast. No picture. But if I say, Bolt ran like a cheetah in a race. Now, you have seen cheetah running very fast. Even now, you can imagine that how have Bolt ran. How fast he has ran. You can imagine that very clearly in your mind. You can make a picture the way he must be running very fast. So this is what figurative language is used for. The paper is very light. Yes, we know the paper is light. No effect on you, no interest you are showing to this sentence. But if I say the paper is as light as feather, now you can imagine in your mind that the feather is very soft, so the paper must be very soft. The feather is very soft and very light in weight. The paper must be like that. If I say your cheeks are red, okay, because of heat my cheeks must be red. You cannot imagine that. But if I say your cheeks are as red as rose, now you started imagining that. Oh my god, that much rose, that much redness is there on her cheeks. So by using such words, such formation of words, a picture is made in your mind, and that picturization of the words in your mind, or the picture that is being made in your mind, that makes the work very interesting. And that's why most of the writer and the poet use figurative words in these days to make the work look more interesting and more catchy for the peoples to read. Now, the topic which we are going to start today is related to this only. Let us take an example and then we will start with the topic. The girls are getting ready for the party. Will they be dressed up the way they are dressed up as home? So they will look very bored. But if they dress up in a new dress, in a new party wear dress, with ornaments, with beautiful earrings and makeup, now they look more interesting, more effective and very attractive. Now people are praising them. Wow, you're looking beautiful today. You're looking very pretty today. Why you are getting ready? To get that praise from the people, that everyone should look at you. No one should move their eyes from you. That's why you're looking so great today. Otherwise, why you want to dress up in such a way? In the same way, the writer wants to make his or her work so attractive that they don't want that the reader should take their eyes off, and they should praise their work. And that's why they decorate their work with such formation of the words. That is known as figure of speech. When we use different figures, different formation of words, when we make own figures of the speech of the words, that is known as figure of speech. To write the way we are writing right now, the definition is very easy. Everyone will get bored. When I will use difficult words, more difficult words to make this work more interesting, you will not like that. You want to have such fun words, the words which make you smile, that makes a picture in front of your eyes. And that's why the writers and the poet chooses to use figure of speech. And there are a lot of figure of speech. What is figure of speech? In Hindi, figure of speech are known as alankar. To decorate the work, the written work, or the any written passage or anything, when we use the words in such a way which make it more interesting and very catchy, very effective, that is known as figure of speech. So figure of speech is a word or phrase that possess a separate meaning from its literal meaning. So you cannot find the meaning of the word of the figure of speech in your dictionary, because they are the invention of the writer or the poet. They are not the literal meaning, the meaning which are given in the dictionary. They will not be the same. They are different because they are the invention of the writer. A figure of speech is often used to portray an idea more clearly or more interestingly. As I've discussed that, why we use figure of speech? To make the work more beautiful, to make it more interesting, more catchy, more effective. That's why figure of speech is used. There are many figure of speech we are having. The first is simile, that you have been read in your last class. We are just going through a quick revision of certain figure of speech, that is simile. Simile, here comparison is being made between two things by using the word like or as. For example, our soldier are as brave as lion. He is funny as monkey. Her cheeks are red like a rose. So you can easily recognize a simile in a sentence when the word like or as is used. If a comparison is being made in a sentence between two things using the word like or as, then it is known as simile. From the word simile only you can see that simile is being taken from that word similar. So simile means when two things are similar and they are compared, that is by using the word as or like, then you can say it is a simile figure of speech. The next is metaphor. Again, it is also same as simile, but the thing is that in simile we do direct comparison between two things using the word like or as, but in metaphor there is indirect comparison. That means we will not use like or as. For example, if I say your class is like a zoo, now you can easily recognize like is used here, then it must be simile. But if I say that your class is zoo, now it is metaphor because the comparison is made between class and zoo, but any word is not used for comparison. Like or as is not used. That means it is a metaphor. For example, your brain is a computer. Now brain is not a machine, but it works so fast, that is why it is compared to computer. It is a indirect comparison because the words are not used here. Like and as is not used here. More example, the sun is a golden ball. He is a shining star. Her tears were river flowing down her cheek. Now tears cannot be a river, but here he wants to represent that she is crying so much that it seems that a river is flowing. So that's why metaphor and simile has a basic difference of the word like and as. If like and as is used in any sentence and comparison is being there, then it is a simile. And if the word like and as is not used and a comparison is made, that is known as metaphor. Now the next is personification. From the word itself, personification, a person is coming here. Here you can see person. Personify. Whenever we give human qualities to non-living thing, that is known as personification. For example, in most of the animated movies, You have seen that trees are being shown as crying as they are speaking to other trees. Now tell me, do trees speak? Do they have emotions or do they cry? No. These are all the human traits, but they are transferred to the non-living thing, and that's why it is known as personification. Now see the example here. The wind shouted. Now wind cannot shout, but here the writer is trying to say us that, or trying to convey that the wind is coming very fast. It is making a lot of noise when it is coming, and that is compared to shouted. The flame of the candle danced in the dark. Now the flame of the candle never dance, but because it is shaking because of the air or the wind, it is shown as it is dancing. Now you can easily recognize when a non-living thing is given the traits, or human traits, like emotions, desire, sensation, speech and gesture, that is known as personification. Very easy to understand. Whenever a non-living thing is given human quality, it is known as personification. Moving on to alliteration. Alliteration is that when the first letter of the word in a single line is repeating, that is known as alliteration. For example, you can see B, B and B are repeating here. You can see here B and B is repeating here. That is alliteration. Remember it, that it is important to note down that alliteration means the first letter of the word. Like for example, big, bad, beer. B is repeating. It is the first letter of the word. Only then the alliteration will be applied here. Alliteration will be applied when the first letter of the word is repeating in a single line. Here you can see S, S, S and S is repeated here. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. So alliteration is used here. Why? Because S is repeating in a single sentence 4 times. Most of the alliteration figure of speech is seen in tongue twisters. Like for example, in the last sentence you can see that Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled pepper. That means P, the first letter of the words are repeating again. That is known as alliteration. Hope you understood this. Repetition. Repetition is the act of repeating. If any word is repeating again and again in a sentence, that is repetition. And why repetition is there? Because it is giving an intense meaning. It is an expression to intense the meaning or to strengthen the message. When a certain line is repeated again and again by a teacher in the class, that means that is very important. You should remember that. In the same way, here you can see that it is not okay to be okay. Okay is repeating here. That means repetition is there. What lies behind us, what lies before us are tiny compared to what lies within us. Here what lie is repeating again and again. So that means the more importance is given to these words. If it is repeating again and again, that means importance is given there, that it has certain very deep meaning in it. So you should understand that's why it is being repeated again and again. At last you can see the example is nothing can be created out of nothing. If you have nothing, how could you create anything? So nothing can be created out of nothing. This is called repetition. When a word or a phrase is repeated again and again. Why? To give you that there is an intense or deep meaning of that word. To show that, to express that. That is why repetition is being done in that. If you can see that in your poem, in any of your poem, if a single line is repeating again and again, that means that particular line has a very deep meaning, and that's why the writer or the poet is repeating that line. Now, the next one, hyperbola. Hyperbola means when you are exaggerating something a lot. Exaggerating means, in Hindi you have read about alankar. In alankar it is known as atishayokti alankar. Whenever you are trying to badha chadha kar bolna, whenever you are exaggerating the things to such a point that it seems to be unbelievable for the person who is listening to that. Now tell me that if you are hungry, can you eat a horse? No. It is a way of expressing that you are very hungry and you want to eat a lot. but you can't eat a horse. So that is a hyperbola, that you are exaggerating things a lot. It is used for emphasize or as a way of making description more creative and humorous. To create a humorous or a comic scene, it is being shown as there. She is as skinny as a toothpick. Now tell me, can someone look like a toothpick? No. But to express that the person is very thin, toothpick word is used to make it more humorous. Now I hope you have understood hyperbola. Now we come to the new figure of speech. The first figure of speech is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is one way a poet can create sound in a poem. And onomatopoeia is a word that actually looks like the sound it makes, and we can almost hear the sound as we read. Now, as I have taught you the poem Rain on the Roof, there the writer has made certain points. Tinkle. Now even that is a sound which is made by the raindrop which fall on the roof. Tinkle sound is made. Tick tick sound is made. The clock is making the sound of tick tick tick. So now this is a type of sound which is actually being made by the clock, and these words are used in the poem. So whenever the words which are showing the sound are used in a poem or in a work, that is known as onomatopoeia. That means a sound is used there, like tick tick tick, bow bow, beep beep. So such types of words. Patter, that means you can even think of a sound. Patter, the sound is when made when the rain is very when the okay, the patter sound is made when the rain falls on the roof very heavily, or when the rain is very heavy at that moment. Now for example, if the sounds are used, so remember that whenever sounds are used in your poem, bow bow, that means the dog make the sound of bow wow. Now bow wow, you can even speak that word and you can listen that sound. That is known as onomatopoeia. Silence your phone so that it does not beep during the movie. So phone make the sound of beep, and even you can read that word beep. The sound actually is being popped up here, that is peep. My teeth chattered as I stood in the snow. So whenever you are standing in winters outside your house and you are feeling very cold, what happened? Your teeth starting chattering. The sound they made, that is known as chattering. So the words which show the sound or which represent the sound in the poem, those words are known as onomatopoeia, or the figure of speech is used there is onomatopoeia. Now the next is tautology. Tautology. Tautology is when something is repeated, but it is said using different words. Repeating an idea in a different way can bring attention to the idea. Like I want to say, I'm sorry, and I apologize that from my heart. That means I am saying I'm sorry also, and in other way I am saying I am apologizing also. So I am saying the same thing but by using the different phrase. For example, I apologize because I'm very sorry that I broke your ball. I apologize also mean I'm sorry, and I'm very sorry is also used again. That means the same thing is repeated by using different words. That's why here we have tautology figure of speech. Next is the teacher assisted me by helping me to complete the math problem. Now assist means to help. Help is used 2 times here, but with different words. The teacher assists me by helping me. Now you can understand that assist also means helping. So the same word is used but by different words. Now try to understand tautology, that same thing is said but different words are used. To say I am sorry, you can say I apologize. So both convey the same thing but they are used in a single sentence and they are repeated. I personally made this card for you with my own hand. Now tell me, personally means obviously you are going to make it, but here what it said, I personally made this card by my own hand. The same thing is said but by using different words. That is known as tautology. Now next is antithesis. Antithesis is used to express opposing ideas in a more vivid fashion in order that it has more of an impact on the person listening or reading. Now here in a single sentence, what antithesis actually mean? That antithesis actually means that two opposing words are used in a single sentence. Why? To give more impact on a person. For example, give all men your ear, but few men your voice. What the sentence means? That listen to everyone, but give advice to only few peoples. So all men and few, all and few are opposite to each other. As you can see, all and few is opposite to each other. Give all men your ear, but few men your voice. So antithesis is used here. Why? Because we are using opposite word. All has opposite as few. Now next sentence is more easy. It was best of time, it was the worst of the times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Now you can see that in this single sentence, two opposites are there. Best has the opposite worst. So worst and best is used in a single line. Wisdom and foolishness. What is the opposite of wisdom? Foolish. So you can see that contradictory words are used, opposing words are used, or opposing ideas are used in a single sentence. Why? Because it will have more impact on the person and person will remember it for long. That I should listen to everyone, but I should give advice to only few peoples. So this is how the antithesis is used. So whenever you find two opposite ideas in a single sentence, their antithesis is used. I hope you understood this. Next is apostrophe. What is apostrophe? When a character in a literary work speak to an object, an idea, or someone who doesn't exist as if it is a living person. This is done to produce a dramatic effect and to show the importance of the object or idea. Now, apostrophe means, for example, most of the time it happens that whenever if you ride scooty, so it must happen with you also. Whenever you are getting late to go somewhere and your scooty doesn't start, then you started speaking to your scooty, "Yaar, please jaldi start ho jao. I want to go there. I want to rush there." So you are speaking to scooty which does not exist, which cannot speak to you, but you are speaking to that. That is known as apostrophe. Or whenever you are looking at something and you just praise that, "Wow, that rose, oh rose, you are so beautiful." Rose cannot speak to you. You are not having a conversation. It does not exist. But still you are speaking to that. Why? To show a dramatic effect is produced only when two people are speaking. So to show that dramatic effect, such phrases are used. Apostrophe is when you are speaking to the thing which does not exist. Or you speaks to an object. यार ऐसा when you speak to yourself also, or when you are trying to select certain clothes, what should I wear, or whenever you are talking to the person who does not exist in your life, like who must have passed from your life, then that is known as apostrophe. The thing which does not exist, the non-living things to whom you are talking, who cannot give answer to your questions, that thing is known as apostrophe. Let us see the example also. "Oh Rose, how sweet you smell and how bright you look. Car, please get me to work today." So most of the time it happens that whenever your scooty doesn't start, you started speaking to your scooty. "Yeah, please start fast now. I want to rush there. I want to go there. I'm getting late, please." So this is what is known as apostrophe. Now next is consonants. Consonants, as you must have known that alphabets have vowel and consonant. The words like A, E, I, O, U are vowels, and the words other than vowels are known as consonant. So whenever these consonants are repeating in a single sentence, either in middle, in last, or in the first position, that doesn't matter, but they are repeating, that is known as consonants. So consonants is typically used to refer to the repetition of ending sound that are consonant, but it can refer to repetition of consonant sound within a word as well. So within a word, that means in between also and at last. Mainly they never are repeated in the first position, as we have seen in alliteration. In alliteration, we have seen the first letter of the word should be same, then only alliteration will be applied. But in consonants, the letter should not be at first position. It should be at last position. Then only it will be known as consonants. And it should be a consonant. Consonant are those alphabets which are not vowels. And you should know that there are 5 vowels: A, E, I, O, U. So, consonants, the consonant when are repeating within the sentence or at last of the sentence, that is known as consonants. For example, the lint was sent with the tent. So you can see at last T, T, T is repeating. The second example, Mike like his new bike. K, K, K is repeating. Why we have not taken E? Because E is a vowel and we just have to take consonant. So remember this also. Toss the glass, boss. So double S is repeating at last. That is why it is known as consonants. Now the next is assonance. Assonance is when vowels are repeating in a sentence in the middle of a word. That is known as consonants. When the vowel is repeating in a single sentence, then it is known as assonance. Let us see the definition first. Assonance take place when 2 or more words close to one another repeat the same vowel sound but start with different consonant sound. So you can say that it doesn't matter with which letter it is starting, but it should have the sound of vowel in it. That's enough. In a single sentence, if the words which are adjacent to each other and they are having the vowels in them, then it is known as assonance. For example, men sell the wedding bells. Now E, E, E is repeating in the second position. Second one is we light fire on the mountains. Now you can see here that I have not taken I over here in the mountains. Why? Because it should be in the second position or the third position within a word. It should be in the middle, not at the last. So I will not take this I in the mountain. Last example is that fleet feet sweep by sleeping geese. So now the E is repeating here and that is why it is known assonance. So remember, there are 3 things which you have to keep in mind. Alliteration. In alliteration, the first letter of the word should be repeated. First letter, and it can be consonant and it can be vowel. In consonants, as the word say consonant, that means the alphabets which are not vowel, they are known as consonant. They should repeat at the last of the word in a single sentence. And assonance means when vowels are repeating in a single sentence in the middle of a word. That is known as assonance. So you should keep these 3 things in mind. Now next is anaphora. Anaphora. Anaphora is a rhetorical term for when a writer or speaker repeat the same beginning of a sentence several times, used to add emphasis to the repeated elements or to add rhythm and style to the next. Now we have read repetition. Repetition is that a single thing is repeated again and again. But here, the same beginning, which we are beginning our sentence, that is repeated again and again. That is known as anaphora. I am awake, I am strong, I am ready. So the same beginning is repeated again. I am, I am, I am. I am is repeated. That is beginning. In repetition, it is not necessary whether it is in the middle or whether it is at the last position. That is not the matter. It should repeat. But here, anaphora means when the repetition of a word is from the beginning. The beginning is repeating again. I am awake, I am strong, I am ready. Mom, we will not run, we will not scream, we will not be late. So you can see the beginning is repeating again and again, and that is known as anaphora. Next is euphemism. Euphemism is when a person uses euphemism, they are replacing a word or phrase with another in order to make the sentence sound less offensive. Now, when you don't want to use that the word death or die, you says passed away. That is euphemism, because you don't want to make someone feel bad about that. Okay, that is known as euphemism. For example, he has passed away. Now, instead of using he has died, we are using pass away, so that nobody or the family members of that person should not feel bad about that. So to avoid using offensive word, we try to use such a sober word so that it should not be very offensive to the other peoples. Now, she is between jobs. if a person is unemployed, if a person is not getting job, we will not say, are you unemployed? No. What we will say, that are you between jobs? Between means that are you finding different jobs? So this is the very sober manner, or in a very sober manner, we are saying something which is very offensive. Because unemployed, it really hurts the word. It really hurts the people, that are you seeing me unemployed? He is little thin on top. He is little thin on top. Top means that his hair is losing. So we are not saying that he is bald. He's bald means he doesn't have hair on his head. But we are saying that he is little thin on top. So euphemism means when we are using such words instead of using offensive words. When we are using words or phrases which are less offensive. That is known as euphemism. The next word is irony. Irony is, in Hindi you say vyang. Whenever we say something in very harsh manner, though it is very humorous, but it actually work as an arrow which directly hurts your heart. So irony is the use of words to convey a meaning that is opposite of what actually said. What a brilliant. Okay, whenever, for example, whenever you do something mischievous in your home or at your school, your mother say, wow, what a great work you did. She's angry with you. She's scolding you, but in a very soft manner, in a very opposite manner. That is known as irony. Whenever you get less marks in your school or in your academic years, your mother say, what a brilliant child. And when someone asks how much he scored 100%. He's very intelligent. So this is a way she used the words to pinpoint our mistake at that moment, to make it feel bad. So irony is that something very important is conveyed by using opposite words. Okay, for example, the blind is leading the blind. That means, how can a blind person lead another blind person? The foolish is leading the foolish. So at times it happens that when our mother or our teacher said something in very sweet manner and we have actually done something very bad, that means at that moment they are using irony figure of speech. Wow, amazing. What a brilliant work. Though you know that you did that mischievous or naughty thing in the class, but still the teacher said, wow, amazing. How can you do so? You are such a brilliant student. That doesn't mean that she's praising you. That means she's angry, but she's actually scolding you in another way. That is known as irony. The police station get robbed. Now tell me, the police station who cannot take care of their station, how can they how can they make us feel safe when they cannot make their own station safe? If their station can be robbed, even our home can be robbed also. The fire station burned down. When the fire brigades cannot take care of their own station, then how can they save our lives? So this is how irony is being done. The next is transferred epithet. Now transferred epithet is that when an adjective is transferred from a person to a non-living thing, that is known as transferred epithet. For example, in your poem Rain on the Roof, in the second paragraph, a word is used, melancholy darkness. Melancholy darkness means, melancholy means sad. Now you tell me, can the darkness be sad? No, the darkness cannot be sad, but the characteristic of a human is transferred, or the character, the adjectives which are used with human are transferred to the non-living thing. Melancholy darkness, weary road, sleepless night. Now can you tell me that night can be sleepless? No, the person is feeling sleepless. But to make the sentence more interesting or more catchy, what is done? The characteristic of a person is transferred to a non-living thing or to object, that is known as, or to an idea, that is known as transferred epithet. Epithet means adjective, and when an adjective is transferred from person to an object or idea, that is known as transferred epithet. Now the next is litotes. Litote is that when two opposite words are used together, two opposite things. Not bad, that means good. Litote is a literary term for a figure of speech that uses negative term to express a positive statement. So you always have seen that whenever we use two negative things in a single sentence, they cut each other and they become a positive statement. She is not a bad girl. That means she is a good girl. Next is, she is not unkind. Not unkind. Not and un is cut it down. That means she's a kind girl. It is not the worst thing I have ever seen. Not and worst are used together. That means it is the best thing she has seen. So two opposite and negative terms are used together. Not opposite, negative. Two negative terms are used together to make a sentence positive. That is known as litotes. Remember, in litotes, two negative terms are used together to make the statement positive, without actually stating that the statement is affirmative. So you should remember not bad, not tall, not bad, and not unkind, not worse. When two negative things are used together, that is where litote is used. Next is oxymoron. Oxymoron, in which two terms contradict each other. Two terms are used, but they are actually contradict each other. Day night. I work day night. That means they are contradicting each other. How can you work day night? How can you dream in day? Daydream. Daydream is like dreaming we always do at night, but still we use daydream. That is oxymoron is used here. Climb down. Climb means to climb up. How can you climb down? Climb means to go up, down to come down. So this is contradictory. Two opposite things are used together. Doing nothing. You are doing also and you are doing nothing also. How can it be together? All alone. All and alone are used together. Small crowd. Now tell me, can a crowd be small? Crowd means a huge group of peoples. Still we use contradictory words, small crowd. Inside out. Inside and out. Two opposite things are used together. Climb down. So this is known as oxymoron. When two terms are used which contradict each other, that is known as oxymoron. Next is metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech in which the name of the object is substituted for something closely associated with it. For example, when we use a part. I have 4 mouths to feed at home. The mouth here represent people, that I have 4 people at home to feed. That means something related to that is used instead of using that exact word. That is known as metonymy. Pen is mightier than word. Now pen and sword are doesn't match with each other. Pen here represent words. That words can give deeper wound than the sword can give. The White House declared that we are at war with Mars. Now White House cannot declare something. That means some representative of White House. Who is the representative of White House? President of United States. So here instead of using president, what they have used? White House. Instead of using words are mightier than sword, pen is used. Instead of using 4 people to feed, they have used 4 mouth. So this is known as metonymy. Now the next is epigram. The next is synecdoche. Synecdoche here means it is similar to metonymy. Just try to understand that in metonymy we use something related to that object, but in synecdoche we use certain word, we use part instead of whole. For example, he is the breadwinner, or music is the bread butter. Music is my bread butter. Now bread what actually means? Bread means money. So instead of using money, instead of using a whole word, we have used a part. That what because of money what we have, we had food to eat, and that's why I use part instead of whole. Next is boots on the ground or boots on the battleground. So here boots are part of what? Of soldiers. Soldiers, here boot represents soldier. There in metonymy we use something which is related to that thing, but here we are using the part of that thing instead of using the whole thing. He is a grey beard. Grey beard, he is having grey beard or grey hairs. That shows that he is an old man. Grey beard means old man. So we are using the part of his body to represent him. The suits are coming to do early audit. The suit here means businessman. So remember that in synecdoche we use part instead of whole thing. We are using a small part instead of a whole thing. And in metonymy we represent the thing uh, which is nearer to that, uh, closely related to that thing. Subject, we can substitute the subject which is closely related to that thing. Now tell me, president, uh, White House is not the part of the president. White House is not the part of the president body or around him. It is situated with him. It is associated with him. So we can use the word which is associated with them. We are not using the part. We are using something which is associated with them here. I hope you have understood what is metonymy and what is synecdoche. Now next come is epigram. The last is epigram. Epigram is a short, witty poem or saying. It often used to expose the truth. Okay. Now for example, somebody makes a remark on a poet, and now poet is giving answer to that remark. What he says: "Sir, I admit your general rule that every poet is a fool, but you yourself may serve to show it that every fool is not a poet." Now this is a small poem, and here the poet is giving answer to the person who has commented on his poem. That person said that you are a fool. All the poets are fool. So he said that because you made such a statement of on poets, you showed that you are actually a fool. So wittiness is used. They both are playing with words to fight with each other. That is not actually looking like a fight, but actually it is the actual truth is being shown here. Now next sentence you can see, experience is the name everyone gives to their mistake. Now it always happen that if you have seen people that you made this mistake, while you pinpoint someone that you made this mistake, that person will not accept that he has done this mistake. He will say, oh, that is my experience, I will learn more and more. So now the truth is being exposed here, that persons or people will not accept that they did this mistake. Now they will give it a name of experience instead of accepting that they have made an actual big mistake. Now last thing is that it is a statement made by 17th president of your United States, that is John F. Kennedy. He says that mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. Now a person has stated something. It is a saying, simple saying, but it has exposed a very big truth, that if mankind, if people, if human beings will not stop this war, then war will stop, or war will end them one day, that there will be no human being on this earth. So a big message is given through certain usage of words, that is known as epigram. Now I hope you have understood sorry that you have understood what is epigram and all the figure of speech. I want you to go again through this figure of speech and try to find this figure of speech which I have taught you in your poems, which we have completed till now. So this is your homework which you have to do. Read this epigram again through the PDF I will provide you, and try to find out these figure of speech in your poems which we have read in your behalf. So this is your homework. That's all for today. Thank you, students.